Let's see if we're going to finish this. I've all day been trying to post something, and really, it's been a pretty busy day. Didn't think it was going to be busy, but things kept happening. But maybe the fourth time today, I'm trying to put something with Genesis. I'm trying to do 5 posts tonight. Not sure if things will happen that way, but let's see what we can do. In our study of Genesis, we're dealing with the creation of man. And we learned that the second chapter of Genesis is actually it's a expansion of the sixth day, where God made both the animals, the land animals, and man. We forget that on the sixth day, it wasn't just man that was made. It was the animals, the land animals that were made as well. And we learn, at least from this particular chapter, that all the creatures, both birds, land animals, and us, and we can probably take that also and spread it to those that live in the sea, they all were made out of the dust of the earth, or from the dirt of the earth, or from the mud of the earth, whatever you may want to call it. And we learned that essentially the first name, Adam or Adam, really means red or mud, because that's what he was made from. Now, people may dispute whether he was white, whether he was darker skinned, or whatever it happens to be. I have no problem with either one. It doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is that I'm saved in Jesus' name. But for those who want to go down that route, there are compelling arguments for both sides. Definitely for the darker hue of one's skin, because mud isn't light. Mud is pretty dark. Dust is dark. It's not necessarily light skin. But at the same time, it was so far in the past, we really don't know. And I'm not going to try to argue for or against anything, because that's not going to save me. But there is something very special that took place in our last lesson. And essentially, God saw that man was alone. He said it wasn't good for him to be alone. And remember, he said after the sixth day, if you read chapter 1, that everything was very good. That means it was complete. That means it was done in a way where it's essentially no more additions had to be made for that particular day. So obviously, all this in second chapter had to be in the sixth day, because otherwise the creation wouldn't be very good. Because God said himself, it was not good for man to be alone. And we can talk about that also, is that essentially we are equipped to be able to have but be able to have a partner in life. And the closer that partner is, the more it seems to be one. And we're going to get into that in this particular session. And and that's why marriage done correctly is blessed by God, if it's done correctly. There are things that we don't do beforehand, because otherwise it corrupts the marriage vow, so to speak, beforehand. But at the same time, the Lord is one that forgives. So, and we've sinned so many times. But anyway, the way that God made this help that was meet for man. Now we should say, yes, this help that was sufficient. This help that complemented man. And I want to make sure that gets into point as well, that what God created from man complemented man, didn't make man superior or inferior, but it made her, woman, the same stature as man. Some say because it took a rib, it was close to his heart. And that's where God meant it, that this is to be something or someone that man cherishes, the male cherishes. And I don't mind that either. Sounds good. Is it biblical? Can't say, because the Bible is silent on that, but it does say that he took a rib out of man. The thing that surprises me about all this is that knowing stem cell research and knowing how man is now able to make tissue of various kinds out of one cell, just by tinkering with the DNA and the timing mechanism of that DNA. God did this a long time ago with woman, that from a bone, from a rib, he created the entire being. So yes, he was connected to man, made up of the same substance pretty much, but woman was made out of man and then manipulated by God to be almost a twin person, but not one that doubled man's ability, but complemented man's ability. Big difference. So verse 23 of Genesis 2, it says, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. How did he know this? Because remember, Adam was asleep. And because he's asleep, then he wouldn't have known what took place. Now understand this too, that as God is a master anesthesiologist, he's also a master surgeon. So this is what he did. So 3 things he did. Number 1, he put man to sleep, anesthesiologist. Number 2, he extracted a rib from Adam, surgeon. And number 3, he created a woman out of that rib. And you could say that he was a scientist, bar none, peerless. So 3 things that people kind of skip over. But those 3 things, Jesus was able, the Lord was able to do all by himself, without any help. That's power. But says she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. God must have told Adam that what he did, but he left no marks on Adam. Wasn't like right now we get stitch marks and maybe they disappear over time, but they're there. There was no such thing on Adam. No scars, nothing to take away the perfection that God made Adam with. But here's verse 24, and where we get to what we really need to understand. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother. Now remember, this is Moses who either wrote Genesis on direction of God or he compiled these stories by direction of God. But in any way, the narrative was, a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife. In other words, the man doesn't go back to the parents. And as much as, and I know as a parent, I'll probably feel the same way, but I'm learning. Keep a distance from my son, who is grown now. He's over 30 years old. He's grown. So therefore, I don't need to be hovering over his life. If he asks me a question, I'll give him advice. But it says, a man shall leave his father and his mother. Now, not saying you don't love your mother or love your father. You should. You should respect them always, no matter what. So not shoo them out the way, but let's let them know, especially when he's married another person. You may like that person. You may not like that person. But that is who he chose, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, till death do you part. And you can't break that, parent. I'm talking to myself as well. So this is like the first marriage. And he shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Not physically, but emotionally. They should be of one mind in terms of the goals that they seek, as they supplement each other. They supplement each other. I want to say that one more time. They supplement each other. Now, unless one again, that becomes essentially, this is who you picked. So you stay with that person. But if that person can't come up with the other 20% or so, or 5% to make them 50-50, it may be 60-40. It may be 70-30. It may be 100-0. And you have to deal with it. Because you said you love that person. And you can't just, okay, mom and dad, come in, I need your help. Okay, if they wish, they could. But our mind should be that this is my household. Men, this is my household. And I have to protect my household. Even from parents who wish to butt in the way. And I know you love your child, but your child is no longer a child. The child is 20, the child is 30, the child is 40. Again, if he or she wants advice from you, then okay, you can give that advice. But whatever they do, you have to say, okay, I'm staying away from that. You have to abide by their choice. Because the thing is that the marriage bond is supposed to be closer than anything in this world except God. Now, of course, between a woman and her child, that is a bond that probably would rival that. And in many cases, we figure, well, the man can take care of himself, but I need to take care of this child. So the bond grows very strong with that. But you cannot, women, lose the bond that you have with your husband. Maybe the husband does have to understand that the woman now has to focus much more of her attention to the children. But that does not mean that essentially she has forsaken you. It just means that there's someone in the family that needs more help. But after all is said and done, the two shall become one. It doesn't happen automatically. It takes time. Adam and the woman, who won't say her name yet because it doesn't say so in the Bible, and as a second chapter of Genesis. But whatever happens, the two growing into one process takes time. Give yourself time. Because you both had lived separate lives, have separate, had separate endeavors, separate dreams. And you have to recognize that of each other. And then while you're doing what you need to do, then the other one fills in the gaps. So that there should be a synchrony of effort. There should be a putting together of effort so that it looks like it's one. Now, this is not a marriage counseling service. I'm not trying to be a marriage counselor. But I do understand that marriage is supposed to be till death do you part. I understand also that sometimes that can't happen. Sometimes it really can't happen. You will destroy each other if you stay together. But if at all possible, when we get married, that's why we should make sure that we love that person who we're about to marry. We should make sure that we love them regardless of their faults. I'll say it again. If you're going to marry someone and you're really that sure about it, then you must make sure in your mind you marry them despite their faults. Because you may not train them to get rid of them. It may stay for the rest of the marriage. And verse 25 says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife. See, the Lord called them his wife. They didn't even come together yet. They did not have a sexual encounter yet. But because of their care for each other, they became one. And they were both naked. And the reason why they weren't ashamed was because they didn't eat, remember? They did not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So they thought everything, well, tiger, well, yeah, we had the fur, yeah, but then no, there was no clothes on the tiger. There's no clothes on the lion. There's no clothes on the bear. There's no clothes on the deer or the antelope. There's no clothes on anything. So, okay, well, no one wear clothes either. And it was okay. And that also told you the climate of the time, that it was temperate. Wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Even if there was a night there, it didn't get real chilly. The day didn't get really hot. It was actually the perfect environment. And this was paradise. And the man and woman were in paradise, both of them to keep the ground, which had to be a very simple thing of making sure that everything was okay. And not even sure what the duties of man was, but it wasn't torturous. It wasn't hard to do. But there was probably a pleasure just looking at all the flowers and the trees and the plants and seeing the animals interact with each other without killing each other. Must have been a wonderful time. But remember too, this was a garden in Eden, not the Garden of Eden. We see that? That's kind of a mistake that we usually make. We say the Garden of Eden, but it was a garden in Eden. That means that Eden was bigger than the garden itself. But the garden was placed in Eden. And Eden, of course, was only a small part of the earth as a whole. And the Lord put the man and woman there at that one small part, but it was more than sufficient to keep the both of them. Last thing, even now, right now, I'm thinking, the Lord placed us on this planet, which is essentially the biggest one of the 4 inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars being the other 3. But it is dwarfed by the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. And then we go past that, past even where the comets dwell, and they come from the Oort cloud, billions and billions and billions and billions of miles away. And we go to the other planets out of the various stars, and we go to star systems, we go to the galaxy and the universe, and we find that we're an extremely small part of the universe. But God takes care of us. Of all of the planets that Lord could place us in, he put us on Earth. Too far away from gamma rays that could kill us. Too far away from a big star that could suck us in when it collapses. Too far away from the center of the galaxy, which has this supermassive black hole that draws everything into it. We're just in the exact right spot And God knew it. God bless you in Jesus' name.